In my last video, I talked about building a bridge to our parents when we are seeking to understand ourselves. Seeking to understand our parents is a good place to start. It's a great place to start. Oftentimes, the things that we struggle with are the things that our parents have struggled with. And the very interesting thing is that when we are struggling with our things, these very things could have been the things that our parents avoided. And so they've been left there for us to heal. Okay? And I'm not saying you got to heal the whole bloodline because now you're doing your work. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is, if somebody doesn't clean the bathroom, somebody's got to clean the bathroom. Okay? That's what I'm saying. So here's the thing. All of our parents are not in the position to understand, to comprehend where we're coming from when we're asking them certain questions, and it could be really frustrating. So I wanted to make this video to give you some guidance on how you can approach different levels of understanding, approach different levels of maturity, okay? Because we know that all of our parents are older, but they're not as mature as we want them to be sometimes. And even if they are growing, and we see their growth, we see their progress, they are still in process. So we want to have compassion and understanding for them, because there will be a time, whether it's the children we give birth to or the children in our care, or maybe somebody just on the street who is trying to get over on you, where we have to confront these things within ourselves. So we want to be able to offer that type of understanding, because really in that offering, we set ourselves up to be recipients of mercy and recipients of grace in the future. Okay? So how do we approach our parents about their emotional experiences when they have not had a formal process they've gone through? The first thing I would say is, you don't want to set yourself up for disappointment. So the first obvious answer, that scared me a little bit. The first obvious answer is to not approach them. Do not approach your parent if they're not in the position to talk about something that happened to them. They're not obligated to share. They're not supposed to share because you asked them. And your healing does not depend on your parent. Just because you're seeking understanding of them doesn't mean that you cannot understand yourself if you don't have a certain level of information about your parents. That is not true. Because God is omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent. He works through so many different people in so many different ways. So what your parents were not able to provide, he provided through somebody else. And if you look at different points in your life, you know this to be true. So you don't have to treat them like your healing depends on them. Hey, that's a good word. You don't have to treat your parents like your healing depends on them. What you can do is come with humility, and you can ask, hey mom, have you ever struggled with feeling this type of emotion and this type of emotion in a situation? That's all you have to say. Let me see if I read something. Okay, I'm gonna take this trail. Just wanted to read that sign. Okay, the river walk. Very good. So don't treat your parents like they're healing, like your healing depends on them. It's not true. Because there are ways that I was able to develop my understanding and ways I was able to heal without knowing certain things about my parents. And then when they were in the place where they were ready to talk about it, I could come to them and everything began to make sense. Okay? And some things, there may be a resistance to you asking. The parent may say, well, I don't think that's any of your business. Why are you asking me? I say, you know what? I was just, trying to connect with you, but I'll ask you something else. The key in those situations is to remain regulated. You have to be at a deep center within yourself. You've got to be at a deep center. I mean, so deep that only the presence of God can reach you if you got to be in that space within yourself where you're untouchable. You got to get into that space where you are untouchable within yourself, like, and you engage your mind. Oh my goodness, there's so many things I'm learning on this trip right now. I'm supporting a kids summer camp here in Massachusetts in the Berkshires, and it's a completely different environment, very expansive, and it's been very challenging for me. I'm going to share some of that in the upcoming videos. But what I want to tell you is I had to get to a space in the last 6 days, maybe 7 days, where I was so centered within myself that even when I saw sadness, or I saw boredom, or I saw worry, or I saw whatever emotion, I could see it, but I would not consume it. I could see it, but I wouldn't eat it. I had to engage my mind at a different level. So when you're going to your parents, before you go to them, you want to be at a place of emotional regulation within yourself. You want to tell yourself, you know, hey, my healing does not depend on them. It's really got a lot of flies out here. My healing does not depend on them. I'm seeking understanding, seeking wisdom. I'm connected to the presence of the Most High. The mind of Christ is within me, and I go forth in truth and in love. So you want to pray. You want to affirm that your healing is already in process. When that parent has not come to a certain level of development within themselves, you want to affirm that you're already on your path, you're already on your journey, and nothing can take you off of it. The other thing that is very possible for us to do when approaching our parents is we're seeking a sense of validation because we're their child. And I've done this. I've tried to seek validation in my healing journey. When I first gave my life to Christ on my dorm room floor at Howard University, I called some family members and I said, I feel so good. I just gave my life to Jesus and I don't know what I did, but you know, and I was 20 at the time. And some family members were like, that's great. You know, that's so exciting. And they didn't know what that meant, you know, not really in a real way, because the media shows the church, you know, in certain lights, and it's not always accurate. And then we don't really know what it means to commune with the presence of the Most High. You know, we don't really have an understanding of who Yahushua is. Hamashiach, who is he? Who is the highest, most exalted one? Who is the Messiah? Who is the King? Who is the King of glory? So when we dedicate our lives, when we devote our lives, and we call people, we're being called by something higher, it's very easy for us to be misunderstood. What I want you to do in this situation where you're seeking understanding of your parents' emotional experience, and they may not be ready, they may not have a certain maturity level, or you may just be surprised and they could just give you something that is just like, oh my gosh, thank you, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to know you as my parent. And those moments are possible. When you get to that place, you want to recognize that it's about praying within yourself while you are in that situation. You affirm you're already on your path. Nothing can take you off of it, not even their reaction to you while you're on yours. And I know this is a lot of, this requires a lot of thought, because so many of us do depend on people. We do depend on our parents to validate what we're doing. You know, and even with our spiritual growth, oh, this is so pretty. Even with our spiritual growth and our spiritual journeys, it's easy to get caught up in what mom and dad see or don't see. And so the thing is, this is a whole course, probably like a 6-part course on, you know, approaching people with different maturity levels. Recognize who you're depending on in that moment. You're depending on the Spirit, Holy Spirit, okay? And you already are on your way. You're already on your way. So even if you don't get the answers that you're seeking in that moment, your answers are going to come to you. Your answers are going to come to you, because that's how God works. He works in and through so many people, so many environments for our good. And if you truly believe that all things are working together for your good, you know that you could be in the woods, you could be in the desert, you could be in the city, you could be in the country. He is providing. He is providing. He spoke through a donkey, right? That's not the only example of him speaking through nature, through what is right in front of us, okay? So I want to, so I want to share, the importance of that, because again, I don't want you to feel like if you don't get the answer that you needed from your family, from your parents, that you can't get the answers at all, because you will get the answers. The other thing is, if your parent says, well, that's none of your business, or I don't want to talk about that, just respect it. Say, that's okay. And when you're at that deep place of center within yourself, then you can recover from what feels like rejection. You can recover from what feels like rejection. I remember talking with my dad. As I mentioned him in part 1, now I'm mentioning him in part 2. And there are some views where we differ. There's some views where we differ. And I respect my dad, I honor him. But there are some things that we differ on. And my dad will say, show me where that says that in the Bible. And that's all I have to say for some of you to be like, okay, yeah, my dad said that to her, my mom said that to her, my auntie, my grandma, my uncle. And so we have those people, right? And then if I give a verse, he said, well, show me, let me show you what this says. And I'm like, headache, And in that situation, because I was not as stable within myself, and the reason why I wasn't as stable was because I was still seeking his validation. If you are seeking the validation of a parent, you will experience moments of instability, because the truth is, they may not be able to validate everything you think, see, feel, hear. Even what you taste. Oh, this tastes good. No, that's nasty. Okay, you can't validate it. So we have to be at a place of openness in our hearts, but also having a boundary of what I have in my heart, the love that I have in my heart, the truth that I hold, the truth that I seek, is not dictated by anybody on the outside. Even if you come through them, being your parents, they don't dictate. Okay? And if you're still struggling with that, seeking that validation, there's so many resources available to you. So I've named 2 types of parents. I've named the one who's like, why are you asking me that? That's none of your business. I don't have to tell you, so very defensive. That's the defensive type. And then there may be the type that just, and with that defense, the parent who fights you on it, the parent who runs from you on it, they may walk away, don't want to talk about it, they may freeze up, right? These are all states of the autonomic nervous system, and they're not ready. We don't get them ready by saying it's time. When it's time, and we pray for them to get on that timetable of healing, when it's time, then we can ask more. But we want to pace ourselves. We don't want to overwhelm them. We don't want to overwhelm ourselves. We don't want to get off center trying to get them on center. That's not our job. And then there's a parent that will tell you everything, and then you feel overwhelmed. And so with that parent, and I'm going to close the video, with that parent, you want to say, Mom, Dad, or Auntie, Uncle, whoever raised you and you want to connect with, you say, I want to ask you something, but I only want to know about this emotional experience. If there's other details about the experience that you think may be too much, or if I think they're too much, I'm going to stop you, because I don't want to hear all of that. I just want to get this answer. What did I just do right there? I set a boundary. I want to ask you this question. I want to know about what happened October 5th, 1971 at 2:00 p.m. Please don't go into October 31st at 1 p.m. Okay? And so whatever that means for you, setting up that boundary. And a wonderful book for this is Dr. Nedra Tawwab. I don't know how to say her last name. She's famous. She's well known for her book on boundaries and her workbook on boundaries. And I'll put that in the description. But check it out, because it's a really great way. So much of our emotional distress develops or continues because we don't set boundaries. So I'm going to leave you on that. I've given you some ways that you can approach your parents, but the key is to prepare yourself and be so deeply centered and grounded within yourself that you don't feel a sense of rejection when they don't want to talk about it. I bless you. I want the best for you, and I'll see you again soon.